Welcome back and thank you for tuning into your daily silver video, folks. We're going to be doing a different type of video today. Kitco News posted this interview 4 hours ago titled Silver to $100, 46-year breakout setup could trigger explosive surge. And this is from, they're interviewing a man named Jordan Roy Byrne, and they have some interesting points. And I want to share these. I'm going to actually show parts of the interview, and I will pause and throw my 2 cents in. Some of the main points, because it's 33 minutes long, so I'm only going to show some of the highlights that I thought were important enough to take note of. But first, we're going to go over them discussing the bull market in gold and silver. Then we'll go into Goldman Sachs forecast and Jamie Dimon's warning, and then we'll end off with silver's potential and key resistance levels. They throw in some very interesting points here, and I do think it's important to take note of. So with that said, make sure you subscribe, like the video if you like the video. I will link this entire episode in the description if you guys want to check it out yourselves from Kitco News. With that said, check this out.
Term fiscal concerns in the United States. So is this just a defensive rotation, or is it the start of something much larger, repricing of monetary risk here? Joining us now is Jordan Roy Byrne. He's the analyst at the Daily Gold and author of Gold and Silver, The Greatest Bull Market Has Begun. Now, he believes gold and silver are entering the early stages of a secular bull market, one that could, again, last for years, not months here. And he says investors may have a limited window to get positioned before the next leg higher. Jordan, welcome back to Kitco News. Good to see you.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, we got a lot to get into. It seems like the gold prices continue to move here as we continue to hear about geopolitical concern. And I want to talk about this bigger picture because one of those reasons was Moody's. I mean, they just stripped the U.S. of its last top credit rating. And of course, we just heard there Jamie Dimon is warning of market complacency amid this geopolitical and inflationary threat. Jordan, how does this reintroduce, or I guess reinforce your thesis that the greatest bull market in gold and silver has already begun?
Well, Jeremy, I would say you use the right word there, reinforces. Now, headline news on a day-to-day basis, that can move markets, but markets anticipate, they discount in advance. So the credit worthiness of the United States, that has already been an issue that is being discounted by the market. And with respect to gold, you go back to March of 2024, gold broke out of a 13-year cup and handle pattern. Those types of breakouts, I mean, those long patterns, 13 years, that's extremely significant. That bodes very favorably for the years ahead, not only the months, but the years ahead. And then in addition to that, earlier this year, actually 1 year later in March, gold broke out of a 4-year base against the stock market. And I have a personal indicator where I look at gold against the 60-40 portfolio, the total return of a 60-40 portfolio. Now, going back 100 years, this has turned in favor of gold, I believe only 3 or 4 times. It happened in 1972. It happened in 2002, early in both of those years. In 1930, by the way, what happened after that? In each case, we had huge bull markets in precious metals. And going back to March, gold broke out of a 10-year base against a 60-40 portfolio. So, Jeremy, we are at the start of a new secular bull market in gold. This is going to run well into the next decade. And in recent months, gold made a huge move, and it's correcting in price and time here. I think that could continue for a little while, but there has not been that much damage yet during this correction. From top to bottom, gold has only corrected 11%. Maybe that could continue a little bit longer, but I agree with what you mentioned in your question. Yeah. Big picture, I think the next couple months could be our last chance to get in before this bull market really accelerates to the upside.
Okay. So I want to pause right there. I like what he said about the bigger picture. You know, a lot of people are caught up in the day-to-day, the news and everything happening right now, right here, right now. There's so much going on. But looking 5 years ahead, looking 10 years ahead, where do you think these markets could be? Where do you think silver's price could be in 10 years? Comment down below. I mean, we're always thinking about in the next 6 months to a year from now because we want to get rich quick. And we really don't think past that, especially with something like the silver shortage. If we are hundreds of millions of ounces in the red right now, and this has happened for the past 4 years, record-breaking supply deficits, imagine in like 10 years from now and what that would do to the price. You don't want to sell yourself short. What if silver does hit $100 in the next couple of years? But in 10 years from now, who knows what the price could be? Who knows if the dollar would even exist by then? So, looking at the bigger picture is definitely a way, especially since this is wealth preservation. We are not in this just to get rich quick. If you are, then you're in it for the wrong reason, or switch to stocks or crypto or something. But this is wealth preservation. So I'm glad that they're looking at the bigger picture, and he's looking at decades ahead, not just next year. It's a much bigger thing. And gold consolidating, and he said he even mentioned that it might correct a little bit longer, but it's holding its ground, and that's perfect, especially in today's market. This could be the start of something. Now, he did mention you might not have much longer to enter the market at these prices. So, keep your eye on that. I'm not saying that that's for sure going to happen. Who knows nowadays? But, his point is that gold is holding its ground. We're in a new bull market, and you might not have much time to enter if you are someone on the fence. Now, let's go into some of Jamie Dimon's warnings in this forecast from Goldman Sachs. This is pretty interesting as well. Check this out.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, let's get to a little bit about where that leads us to next. I mean, Goldman Sachs is now forecasting $3,700 gold by year end. Is this realistic in your view, or is it a little bit more conservative?
I would say it's realistic, given where we are here and now. Where we are, gold. We are in the seventh breakout in gold in its history, the seventh major breakout in gold. You look at those other six breakouts. There is a breakout. There is a big move higher in gold. In all those six cases, gold came. It tested its 200-day moving average, went below, or came within a couple percent of it. So that tells us that over the next month or two or 3 months, we could expect gold to test the 200-day moving average before the next leg higher begins. And in all those cases, after gold tested its 200-day moving average, then its next leg higher, it really took off from there. Now, with respect to the end of the year, yeah, that's certainly possible. It might be a little conservative, but based on the data that I'm looking at, those previous six breakouts and the ones that align closest to where we are here and now, the average of those projects to potentially 4,500 in the next 11, 12 months. So I am more keen on that target than an end of the year target. But certainly 3,700 at the end of the year, that makes sense to me.
Okay. So we're past that.
What do you think about that? Do you think that $3,700 gold is realistic by the end of the year? Comment down below. Also, let me know what you think silver's price will be by the end of the year.
4,000 on your call. I'm going to get back to that, but first I'm going to wait. I'm going to make the audience wait a little bit because I got to get into Jamie Dimon. I mean, we saw him on screen today. He's warning that, of course, credit is a bad risk right now, and that's a pretty stark call coming from the head of the largest U.S. bank. What does that mean for precious metals? I mean, are we looking at a slow rotation into gold, or could this turn into a rapid relocation as credits continue to tighten here?
Well, I had two answers to that. The first would be, I think initially it will probably continue to see a slow rotation, which is fine. That's giving gold the enough firepower to move higher by itself. But maybe eventually, at some point over the coming years, who knows? It might be as soon as next year. Like if you could get a mad dash or accelerated rotation, like you're saying there, out of bonds, that could push gold up dramatically. Not just to 4,000, but maybe to 5,000 or 6,000. Again, not predicting that, but I do think it's possible at some point you will see an accelerated move out of bonds and other credit markets and into gold. I just don't think it's imminent with respect to the next few months or maybe the second half of this year. And the last thing I'll mention with respect to Jamie Dimon, we have his comments. We also have the downgrade from Moody's. We have to be on guard in the next couple months because perhaps we could see a counter trend move where yields fall a little bit just because, as I said at the very beginning, news tends to lag. It doesn't tend to be a leading indicator. So Dimon's comments, along with the credit downgrade, from a contrary sentiment perspective, perhaps we could see over the next 2, 3, 4 months, maybe a move lower in yields, just because those comments come after it's already been discounted in the short term, in my view.
So Jamie Dimon is definitely someone you got to you got to be careful listening to. He is the epitome of an evil banker. JP Morgan has been caught manipulating the price of silver for decades. Now they had to pay a $920 million fine a couple of years ago. Three of their employees got sent to prison. Well, the third one for racketeering, RICO charges. That's just a shady company. I remember when he came out and called Bitcoin a scam back in like 2016, went public with it, shot Bitcoin down thousands of dollars, and then right after that happened, Jamie Dimon got caught buying millions of dollars in Bitcoin. And that's because every transaction is stored publicly on the blockchain. So he only said that so he could get in at a cheaper price. It's just a shady company, though. But regardless, let's go into silver's potential and key resistance levels. This is probably the most important part of this. So check this out.
$35 is hugely important for silver. Again, I like to make comparisons. If we think about how $2,100 for gold was major resistance for several years, $35 for silver. If you look at weekly, quarterly, and monthly charts, you can see how significant that really is. There's also a little bit of resistance at 37. Now, your question is a very good one because I've thought about it myself. One thing I can mention is before the silver stocks broke above 22, I believe at the end of 2010, maybe early 2011, the silver stocks were anticipating that move. They were outperforming silver even before silver broke above that level. So my guess is that it's just a guess at this point, but I really think that you could see the silver stocks really start to outperform silver before it breaks 35. And so to me, if you're looking for a leading indicator, that is the key for silver. And with respect to silver and potentially outperforming gold, Jeremy, $35, $37, that's the key. When silver can take out 35 and then 37, you are going to see it really, really outperform gold at that point.
Okay, so the upside potential, I mean, this blow off kind of top scenario for silver like we saw back in the 1980s at 2011, what would need to happen to trigger that kind of vertical price action?
Well, I don't know if we're going to make a huge blow off top yet. I mean, my very big picture view is we're in a big move right now, and then we'll probably have another bear market and then a final move maybe early in the next decade. But with respect to here and now and what will trigger that kind of a move, silver breaking above $50 is going to be the most significant breakout in the history of capital markets since.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, think about it. 1980, $50 bounces back down. 2011, $50 bounces back down. We're talking about 40 plus years of silver approaching 50 and just stopping. So that $50 resistance level has been building up for so long that once it breaks above even $52, that will be enough for everyone to jump in and prices would go insane, like nothing we've ever seen before. And that's what he's talking about right here.
1971. And actually, since gold broke out, when we ended the gold standard in dealing gold from money or gold from currency, 1972, when gold broke above by $43, $44 an ounce, that was a over 100-year breakout in gold. So that was the biggest breakout of all time. Silver, again, over the next year or two, that'll have to settle for the second biggest breakout of all time, breaking above $50. And looking at historical breakouts of these bases, Jeremy, similar 20, 30-year bases. This is a 45, 46-year long base, by the way. That tells me silver could, you could probably see it get to 95, maybe 100 in 12, 15 months after the breakout. So when silver breaks above 50, you are going to see a spectacular move higher. There will be obviously significant volatility that comes with that move, but that'll be the closest thing to that 1980 move.
I also agree. I think if it broke past 50, we would see 100 shortly after. A lot of volatility, though. Obviously, a lot of people selling at 70s, and then buying back in when it drops and up and down. It would be a crazy, crazy market. But I definitely would think that if silver does break above 50, it would see 100, shortly after, like he said. But yeah, I don't want to show too much. This is basically some of the most important stuff having to do with silver that they talked about. There's, of course, other things they mentioned in here. If you guys want to watch the entire thing, I will link it in the description. Let me know if you like videos like this where I show an actual interview or play a video from something else that I was watching casually that I liked or want to throw in my 2 cents, or if you like the more of the articles, let me know. I'll also be doing other types of content. There's a lot of stuff going on, so I appreciate you all for sticking with me, subscribing, liking the videos, leaving comments down below. It all really helps. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.